This is KGW News at 11.
But first at 11 o'clock, city and county leaders are denouncing 2 nights of violence in downtown Portland, including a riot on New Year's Eve. Thank you for joining us tonight. I'm Dan Haggerty. 3 people at this point have been arrested so far for destruction and vandalism and attacks on police officers. And as KGW's Mike Benner reports, Portland Mayor Ted Wheeler is ready to crack down.
I condemn anyone who engages in violence or criminal destruction, no matter what their ideology.
Portland Mayor Ted Wheeler not mincing words following 2 consecutive nights of violence in the core of downtown Portland.
Lawlessness and anarchy come at great expense and with great risk to the future of our community.
On Wednesday and Thursday nights, authorities say, dozens of people vandalized buildings by spray painting them and breaking windows. We're told they launched Molotov cocktails and fireworks at the federal courthouse and Justice Center. Responding law enforcement officers even came under attack themselves. All of this coming after a summer of similar behavior.
We need more accountability, and we need to hold people responsible for their criminal conduct.
On this first day of 2021, Mayor Ted Wheeler is committing to 3 things. First, he is asking law enforcement to meet with him to address the ongoing violence in Portland and across the state. Second, he wants the state legislature to come up with stiffer penalties for people who repeatedly engage in vandalism and destruction. And lastly, he wants the people convicted of the vandalism and destruction to meet with the employees and owners of the businesses damaged.
To the people who commit acts of vandalism or violence, I have this to say: please stop.
Portland City Commissioner Mingus Mapps, on his first day on the job, denounced the violence. So too did Police Chief Chuck Lavelle and Sheriff Mike Reese.
The violence last night was criminal and reprehensible. It was a focused attack on the Justice Center.
We should be clear about what this was last night. It was about violence and criminal destruction, period.
Mayor Wheeler agrees, adding that he sympathizes with the business owners who are left to clean up the mess.
It's time to push back harder against those who are set on destroying our community.
In Portland, Mike Benner for KGW News.
Meanwhile, several people were arrested today during protests in Salem. A group gathered in front of the Capitol building. They marched then to Governor Kate Brown's home. People gave speeches against COVID restrictions, calling on the state to let restaurants and gyms open back up in more areas. At one point, police did declare an unlawful assembly. Counter-protesters also showed up. Things got tense between the 2 sides, but they believe that a heavy police presence did keep them from clashing. Portland police have detained 5 people wanted in a robbery of a marijuana dispensary. This happened this afternoon in northeast Portland by Sandy and 28th. A car chase eventually led officers to Halsey and Broadway, where the suspects tried to run away. Police locked down the entire area. They told people that lived in that area to stay inside their homes until all the suspects were caught. A sad start to the new year on the coast. A woman was killed today in a home that caught fire in Seaside. She was the only one inside the home. No word yet on what started the fire. In the pandemic, Oregon reported close to 1,500 new cases today. Although we have seen a recent decrease in the case numbers, they have been back up a bit in the last 2 days, as you can see from the chart. The state also reported 13 more deaths today. A healthcare worker in Eastern Oregon is recovering after a severe allergic reaction to the Moderna vaccine. It happened at Wallowa Memorial Hospital in the town of Enterprise. The employee was hospitalized after getting that first dose of the vaccine this week, and health officials say these kinds of reactions are rare.
It appears that severe allergic reactions with either of these COVID-19 vaccines are pretty uncommon. They were not seen in the clinical trials. Now, we are getting some reports of it, and it's something we're paying attention to, but the risk appears to be very low.
This is the only severe vaccine reaction publicly reported so far in Oregon, out of more than 44,000 doses given so far in the state. The vaccine can cause mild to moderate symptoms like pain in the arm, fever, chills, tiredness, and a headache, which is normal. A new variant of the virus continues to spread in the United States. It's been identified now in Florida, in addition to California and Colorado as well. The Florida case is a man in his 20s with no known travel history. It's concerning for a state that just shattered its record for daily new infections. And this variant may potentially be a lot more contagious. This variant is getting a lot of attention due to that fact right now. But how common is it for a virus to mutate like this? Here's Evan Kozloff with tonight's Verify.
The Verify team has been answering your COVID questions every step of the way, debunking online claims and misinformation. And there's been a lot of talk about new variants of the virus emerging, like the possibly more contagious variant spreading in the United Kingdom and recently found in the US. And there's been a lot of discussion online about whether or not this is typical virus behavior. So we're going to verify. Is it normal for a virus to mutate? Here are sources. Infectious disease specialist Dr. Linda Nabha, vaccine expert Dr. William Moss, and Dr. Henry Walk, the incident manager for the CDC's COVID-19 response.
I think it was bound to happen. I am not surprised.
Dr. Nabha explained that it's natural for viruses to mutate.
What it means is the genetic code of the virus changes just a little bit. That it is not uncommon to have a different strain of the virus.
Dr. Moss agrees.
All viruses mutate, and RNA viruses mutate particularly. So this virus has always been mutating, just slowly and kind of steadily. What was striking about this new variant or strain that's been described in the UK and now elsewhere is just the number of mutations. It was like a big jump, if you will.
So what do these variants mean for the vaccine meant to combat COVID-19? Our CDC expert said the following Wednesday afternoon.
Based on our present knowledge, experts believe our current vaccines will be effective against these strains.
Both Moderna and Pfizer say they're testing to see how well the current vaccines protect against this variant. So we can verify that yes, it's normal for viruses to mutate. With your Verify, I'm Evan Kozloff.
Oregon's COVID contact exposure app mistakenly sent out an alert today. It's known as OR Notify. Apple they inadvertently turned it on today, even though it's not ready yet. A pilot program with OSU ended just yesterday. Oregon officials have not said when they plan to enable this app again. Washington launched its version in early December. Many people are still dealing with the aftermath of the devastating fires that broke out in early September. Christine Pitawanich checked in with the Oregon's Office of Emergency Management for a look at the progress.
In September, it is dark out here. There's ash and smoke. Wildfires burned all over the state.
The smoke in this area is so thick it makes your eyes water.
We still don't know the extent of the damage.
15 or so fires burning throughout the county.
The fires swept through, burning homes and entire communities.
So we know that we have over 4,000 homes that have been destroyed. Some of these homes housed multiple families.
Now, almost 4 months later, and there's been some progress.
We've already moved over 100 folks from hotels and motels and from staying with relatives into more permanent housing through FEMA's Direct Housing Assistance Program in Jackson County. That's where we saw the most concentrated damages, to be sure, across all of the fires.
Do you have a timeline as to when folks in Marion and Linn counties and all the other affected counties might be seeing some of this?
Yeah, so Lincoln County, Marion County, and Linn County, through the month of January, will be completing agreements to build out sites to place manufactured homes or travel trailers and get folks into that more permanent housing.
He says plans are also in the works for Lane, Clackamas, Klamath, and Douglas counties. In some cases, they're looking at available rentals. The 100 people who've moved into more permanent housing are part of roughly 300 people statewide who are eligible for direct housing assistance through FEMA. Qualified survivor families of 315 compared with 4,000 homes lost. Why is there such a big discrepancy there?
Yeah, so there's a lot of things that affect eligibility for the FEMA Direct Housing Mission.
Phelps says having insurance affects eligibility, and so does immigration status.
That's been one of the more frustrating things of our recovery process. Folks that don't have documented immigration status aren't eligible for many of the FEMA Direct Assistance programs.
And we've heard from people living in fire-affected communities say debris removal has been slow. While Phelps knows things aren't moving as quickly as some would hope, he says they're actually ahead of schedule when it comes to debris removal. clearing about 2,000 home sites of hazardous waste.
And starting next week, we'll be working on step 2 of the disaster debris removal operations, which are the ash, the construction debris, and hazard trees that have been left on home sites.
Phelps says they've also given more than $32 million in direct payments to almost 7,000 Oregonians. We'll have more information and resources in our story at kgw.com. Christine Pedowanich, KGW News.